What just happened to Florida State football? This is an absolute embarrassment.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Absolutely disgraceful, horrendous, terrible, and otherwise one of the worst performances in Florida State football history. Hi, my name is Brian Smith, and thank you for checking out a live show after Florida State's debacle against Boston College. Sorry, this isn't on better terms, but I call it like it is. And right now, there's not a lot of positives about the Noles. Today's show is going to be about venting your thoughts. I don't normally like that kind of stuff, but I'm going to have plenty. I've got more notes over here than I can get to in a half hour to an hour. I can assure you of that. I stopped writing for a while because I thought my hand was going to cramp. It is going to be very, very, very specific, no holds bar and blunt. I do have 3 questions for those in the chat, and I'll get to the chat here in a moment. For those you are in, and I appreciate you coming in. Again, thank you very much for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each day. Number 1 question, how can you not begin the blame? There's plenty to go around. How can you not begin the blame with Mike Norvell? Tell me how that's not possible. He's the one that signs off on DJ U. Obviously, that's a catastrophe. I'll get to that too. He's the one that goes with this offense that's not his style normally, and it does not work. He's the one that kept all these guys on the offensive line, and it's not congruent for whatever reason, and it's bizarre. I don't really understand that. And then there's the defensive problem. They're not physical. I mean, they had a little bit early on. They had a little fight, but Boston College kept hitting them. Florida State just kind of gave up. They gave up 270 yards rushing to Boston College. This is not the Green Bay Packers. Boston College is a has-been program, period. You just made them look like they're a top 10 program. Let me see here. Castellanos. Let me pull up the old stats. Castellanos, he didn't have a great game throwing. He was okay. 10 out of 16, 106 yards, 2 touchdowns. You know why he only threw 16 passes? It's the same reason Georgia Tech threw 16 passes last week. They didn't have to throw. Your rushing defense is a sieve. It is an embarrassment. It is pathetic. It is absolutely unequivocally unacceptable at the Power 4 level. And you're a team that has guys that, Pete Thamel says, we've got all these guys here that's best NFL talent there is, blah, blah, blah. I don't know who Pete's talking to. Most of the time, it's probably good. He needs to squelch those people that he's talking to the NFL about Florida State's D-line because it stinks against the run. It is terrible against the run. This is ridiculous to be in this situation. 0-2 with the players they brought in? Are you serious? They were never the better team tonight. Ever. They had 3 or 4 yards in the first quarter. I mean, it was ridiculous. BC just kept hitting them in the mouth, executing 4 or 5 yard plays. They mentioned on the ESPN broadcast how this was kind of like 1985 Nebraska in the style. It's a pretty accurate depiction. They ran pure option back then, but it was the same mentality with some downhill running and a fullback. But with Castellanos, that's certainly an option level quarterback, and Florida State had no answers. Let's go over a few of the fun stats for Boston College, and then I'll get to the chat. BC, Castellanos again, 10 out of 16, 106 yards, 2 scores. But the rushing numbers, this is where it gets ugly. Robichaux, Kyle, he's really, really good football player, the running back. 19 carries, 85 yards, and he punched one in for a touchdown, 4.5 yards a carry. Trayshawn Ward, you shouldn't remember the name if you're a Noles fan, former FSU player. He had a long of 23 tonight, 12 carries and 77 yards, 6.4 yards per carry. You had Castellanos, even though he got tackled a few times around the line of scrimmage. His stats aren't quite what they should be, but 14 carries for 73 yards, 5.2. I mean, it's ridiculous. Then receiving, Trayshawn also killed them. He had a couple big plays, including the touchdown, 3 catches for 61 yards, a running back. Nobody else for BC had 20 yards of rushing, and Florida State just lost at home by 2 touchdowns, with the opponent being BC taking a knee inside your 10-yard line. They didn't have a receiver, literally. Didn't have a receiver. The running back doesn't count here. A receiver with 20 yards of receptions and won by 2 touchdowns inside Doak Campbell Stadium. They didn't have a tight end with 20 yards of receptions. They had 106 yards of passing. This is absolutely unfathomable. And to be honest with you, I don't think there's any way you can say it nicely. Folks, we got big problems. Tonight, I'll talk a little bit about it. I'll go over more information after the night show, and I'll post this to the main page on Locked On Seminoles too, so people can come back to it. But point blank, there has to be questions about Norvell. I don't know how last season happened based on what I saw tonight and in combination with Georgia Tech. Now I'm going to get to the chat a little bit. Hello to everybody. I apologize I didn't get to everybody earlier. Got 100 comments on here already. I mean, I apologize. It's somebody, Garrett says embarrassing. John Curvin says, will they make a bowl game? That's one of my questions. Can Florida State go 6-6? Right now, if I had to wager on whether or not the Noles go 6-6, I would bet heavily on no. I think this is a 3 or 4 win team. Literally, I think this is a 3 or 4 win team. Convince me otherwise. Why would I think they're not anything more than a 3 or 4 win team? What did they do tonight to give you any reason to believe? Here, check this out. I mean, the stats for the game here. Let's go by quarters. This will be fun. The first quarter summary for Florida State. You ready for this comparatively? BC 102 yards. Florida State had 4. I was wrong. I thought they had 3. They had 4. 4 yards. They had 1 drive. They got beat up on defense with 3 and out on offense. Just absolutely garbage. At the half, they did have a pretty decent second quarter yardage wise, but they didn't really capitalize the way they should. DJ missing the touchdown pass in the corner. Horrific. But they had 118 yards at half. They did get it going a little bit in the second quarter. They just don't capitalize. Like, they're not clutch in anything. 3rd and shorts, BC killed them. For the game, 3rd downs, BC was 9 out of 16, 56%, whereas FSU was 3 out of 14, 21%. I'm done looking at the stats for a while. Those kind of numbers put it in perspective. There's no reason for Florida State or anybody else for that matter to be in a scenario where you're just getting walloped by Boston College. I don't care if they played that game in Bill O'Brien's backyard. That is a horrific effort. Coaches, players, mentally, physically, game plan was garbage. The first thing I put on my sheet when I cover a game, very first thing, what is it that you do? And I talked about this on my pregame show. What is it that you do with first down runs? Right here. First half, they didn't have any. I've never seen that stat in my life. Whose idiotic idea was it not to run the ball ever on a first down and 10? What are we doing? The only guy I've ever seen do that, and he did it in a game where they could just dominate, the Pirate did it when he was at Texas Tech or at Mississippi State. That's a wide open spread offense mixed in with every other kind of passing concept there is. And he was a different guy. That's not what Florida State is. Norvell's talked about establishing the run forever. No runs on first down? What in the world is that? And by the way, if anybody has any information on any backdrop with Tofili, I'm curious. That first possession, it was a pretty good throw from DJ right through his hands. Later on the second quarter, I believe he had another one. And then he didn't have any carries in the first half. What's going on with that? That's just an oddball thing, by the way, because they got plenty of running backs, but he's supposed to be your leader in the running back room. Stuck through the program. He's a graduate student. That just struck me as odd. I don't know if there's something wrong with him. Why would he come back in? Because he carried the ball in the second half. Again, just so many oddities about how Florida State played tonight. I'm not really sure, even remotely, how to put this into perspective. I'm going to take a quick break here. I'm going to come back. just going to answer questions. I'm not going to really go into stats. Tomorrow, after I get a chance to really delve into them, as soon as the game was over, I hit live. I'm going to do a quick break here, and we'll get back to Locked On Seminoles. Just go through the questions, and anybody that's got something for me, I'm just going to burn through them, and we're going to have at it. You've heard us talk about FanDuel all the time. It's America's #1 sports book. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube and YouTube TV. After you get a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment. And then you can cancel at any time you like. Visit FanDuel.com. Download America's #1 sportsbook now. All right, let's get into the chat here and just go through it. I apologize. There's about 300 comments, and rightfully so. I apologize for anybody I miss, but I'm just going to read some of these, kind of just going through randomly. Sam Gibson. I'm not done with this team. I've been a Noles since 1988. That is a true fan. I will give you credit, Sam. That's pretty awesome. Blake Nagy, Norvell can't develop players. Pathetic play on both sides of the ball. Can't argue with that. Best players are the kicker and punter. We suck. You know what, Blake? That might be the post of the night. By the way, Mastromano is a phenomenal punter. That guy's going to make some money in this thing they call the National Football League. All right, Shane Tucker. Got to play the young quarterbacks. I hate saying it, but you're probably right. DJ's just a terrible fit for this offense. Really can't imagine anybody being happy about what's going on with that, but it is what it is. This season isn't going to end well. Might as well develop the younger players. Herbert Geddes. I thought Brock Quinn would get playing time tonight. I started thinking about that about halfway through the game. I'm not going to lie. And at first, I didn't think there was any chance of that. But now you got to start preparing a little differently. DJ finished with like 270 or something. That's just because they're throwing the ball every down. That's garbage yardage. So, yeah, it is what it is. How does Brock not get a chance? I can answer that for you, Garrett. It's because they didn't plan for him to play this week. He wasn't in the game plan. He wasn't getting first-team reps. If you do not get the lion's share of first-team reps, 0 shot you will play at quarterback. All right. Here's a good point. Garrett also says, Mike looked bewildered out there. He did. Like his face looked flustered. Did anybody else notice that? It was crazy. Absolutely crazy. Can't believe we passed on Cam Ward for DJU. I don't think, Kevin, that they passed on him. Miami outbid Florida State. Miami's pockets are pretty deep. This whole team sucks. Dwayne Hutchins. The punter's great. The kicker's great. Jeremy Wilson. Fire Norvell. Might be a little quick for that, but if this continues next year, he'll be in the hot seat. It's that way in college football now. Whether they had a great year last year or not, it's not going to matter. You must not have collapsing seasons. They win 4 games like I think they're going to. 100% he'll be on the hot seat. 100%. Next. Let's see. Jeremy Wilson. He's cancer. I don't know if that's I don't know who he's talking about there. I hope he's not talking about Mike. But anyway, man, I was out of state in Pensacola, surrounded by Florida fans, and they were, the highlight of the night. Yeah, sure were. We didn't pass on Ward. Yeah, in other words, they got beat. Dumpster fire. Don't fire Norvell. FSU is also a has-been program. I don't know about that. They just came off a 13-win season. That O-line or that D-line is cheeks. That's great. Zombino, Norvell ass. That's hilarious. Jake, oh, wow. I figured this was going to happen tomorrow. Now, it's there's no reason to wait around, man. I have no reason to sit here and wait. Might as well get this out. I'll read off a few more stats in a little bit, but thanks for everybody that's in the chat. Got almost 500 people in here. Please hit that like button, hit that notification bell, subscribe to this podcast. It will be a very fascinating week because I will not hold back. I'm going to break down running game, the O-line, go through the film. That's going to be fun, by the way. Going to look at the D-line. Like BC just gutted them right up the middle. By the early third quarter, Florida State didn't want no more. They didn't want no more. They competed for the most part in the first half, but they got tired of being on the field. And they just kept getting punched in the mouth. We'll talk about that a lot too. Hot seat, says John Curvin. Yeah, I think you're leaning that way. You can't be 0-2 at Florida State. You can't be 0-2 at Florida State. You just can't. Anybody that thinks you can, go ask Mike Norvell, because if he was at the press conference and I was there, I would ask him, what would you do if you were the AD? That's what I would ask him. Like, how would you approach this? Would you call Mike in the office and say, hey, do I need to start looking around? I wouldn't mince words. Like, this is a dumpster fire, the way they were playing. Dumpster fire. No doubt about it. There's somebody that says fire forward. Like, a lot of let's just talk defense for a second. There is a lot of responsibility on that because they got all these D linemen back. They've got an experienced guy comes in from Auburn and linebacker. They got DJ Lundy at linebacker. Got all kinds of talent in the secondary. You know, teams aren't going to throw on those guys, so focus on the run. And they can't stop it. You know it's coming. You have talent. You have experience. You have size. You have speed. And you can't stop the run? I mean, these are just dive plays, off tackle, guard and H-back pulling around. These generic 8th, 9th, 10th grade plays. It's unbelievable. Let's see. Jackson and Jones have been a bust. Can't argue, like, the D-line transfers have not adapted. I mean, they just haven't. I thought Jackson was going to be a dude this year. I wasn't sure about Marvin Jones, but Jackson is a guy I knew was hungry, and he played pretty well earlier in his career. Jones hadn't done it yet. He was just potential. Jackson was a guy that proved he could play some. This is bizarre. Something's really off. Team is soft. No doubt about that, Brendan. Jimmy Jam, Jordan Travis really bailed out FSU a lot last year. That is true. We'll make this quick comment here. DJ doesn't fit the offense. That's obvious. When he rolled left, there was a play he rolled left and had a guy open. He short hopped him like he was throwing ground balls to his 10-year-old son learning Little League baseball. Guy's wide open. Like, he's just not mobile enough for what Mike wants to do. But again, that's who they went out and got, not the other way around. It is on Norvell. It is on everybody on that offensive staff that they went and got DJ. Not a good fit. And he's even regressed. Like, he wasn't bad last year. He had 21 touchdowns, 7 picks, and he was a good play-action quarterback. He's regressed. No ifs, no ands, no buts. He stinks right now, and he's in his own head. You can see the wheels turning when they do the close-ups on the TV camera. It's brutal. It's absolutely brutal. DJ ain't it. Played that 5-star quarterback, and there's young receivers. That's from Frank Biddle. It's a little more complex than that. The receivers, you can start playing some. The receivers actually made some plays tonight on some pretty good balls. But, like, if you have no running game, and by the way, they averaged, I believe, 1.2 yards a carry. Let me make sure I got this right. Florida State rushing, this is unbelievable. 16 carries, 21 yards. The long was 13, but wait for it. The 13 was a passing play where DJ ran up the middle and got a first down. 1.3. So if you take that away, they would have had 15 carries for 8 yards tonight against Boston College. I mean, this is the definition of disaster. Unbelievable. Dupree says the defensive line ain't getting any push. Amen to that. I mean, like, they kind of held their ground, and they actually played a little better in some ways than they did against Georgia Tech. But BC, I think, Ward obviously motivated. The Rubishaw kid was good, and then they had no answer when he really wanted to run. Talking about Mr. Castellanos, he didn't take off too many times, and when he did, they couldn't catch him. Florida State just got beat up, punched in the mouth, took it, and laid down in the second half. They got smoked. Diddy says, in the Norvell era, name me a game we won, but we were the least talented team, but we won anyway because we outcoached the other side. This is an interesting topic. Florida State has a lot of talent compared to most schools they play. There's no doubt about that. Who did they beat where it was definitive going into the contest, like they were a 10-point dog, something like that, home, away, whatever? If I'm missing a game, and my memory's not great, throw it out there. I'm curious what everybody thinks. Is that true? Is there not even one game? where Florida State has been the underdog and won? Like it was definitive, not a 1-point game by the bookies and stuff. For like 8 points minimum, like preferably double-digit dog for the Noles. I'd have to look, and I don't have the time at the moment. That is a great question. The recruiting class falls apart tomorrow. I don't know about that, but being on the phone with recruits right now is not going to go well. Let me give a little hint. Recruiting is my realm. I guarantee you, every coach in America, because there's nothing else on tonight, watch that game. Before halftime even happened, you got your top recruits on the phone with other schools. That is no BS. You have a major recruiting problem incoming. Major. You will see kids now taking visits to every school. Bama, Miami, definitely. Cristobal is a great recruiter. UGA, whatever. Schools that are winning, going to cap. There ain't no doubt about it. LSU got beat. They're lucky. That would have been another one, but they got beat by SC. That would have been another trip. That's not that far from some of the kids, Florida State recruits. Ole Miss will be in the mix with some of these kids too. The recruiting stuff I'll talk about in a couple of days after I get some more info. Bill O'Brien will elevate BC to a respectable program. That's obvious. Norvell is a clown. That is from Ethan Williams. Right now, Ethan, not going to say anything, but after tonight, it was obvious who the better coach was. Oh, the wheels. Yes, yes, sir. Going to start drinking more. That is from John Shaw. Post right there is pretty funny. Oh, my God. Garland, the culture is truly sad in Tallahassee. They didn't have any heart. They didn't have any faith in themselves. They didn't play nearly as hard on defense, especially in the middle there in parts of the second half. It was kind of hit and miss. Then they'd have a good play or something, but then they'd get gouged. Like, again, they gave up 54% on third downs, and they couldn't throw the ball. That doesn't match. That is horrific. That is embarrassing. That is pathetic. That is also Florida State football right now. Oh, my God. Here's a post. Now, I don't think this is true. Then again, I didn't think anything was happening was going to be true. This is from John Kervin. I'd love to hear the chat's thoughts on this. The favorite in the ACC could end up winning no ACC games. Yes, no, maybe, could be. I don't think that's out of question. And I also don't think that anybody should be shocked if Florida State only wins like one. I'm not going to go over the schedule now, but I will go over it again in the next couple of days. We got to get through some stuff. Lord have mercy. It's going to be a rough road to hoe. I need to, who do they even play next? It doesn't matter the way they're playing. They couldn't beat anybody right now. Oh, dear. Oh, boy. Okay, the 14th. So they got not this Saturday, but the one after. They've got Memphis coming to town. And before anybody laughs, Memphis has a legitimate NFL quarterback in Seth Hennigan. Straight up. The only two quarterbacks that were sophomores that were better than him, or freshmen that were better than him, the year that he was Drake May and Caleb Williams. Statistically, like it's proven. If Florida State doesn't make massive changes, they've got a few issues up front. I don't think they got a great O-line, but Florida State can't stop anybody. Florida State will be in trouble. That's the 14th. That's in Doak. I don't care what time that game is. You play at midnight or 7 a.m. Right now, I'm taking Memphis. Straight up, give me the money line. I would take Memphis. They got a quarterback and Florida State doesn't. Florida State can't stop the run. Memphis can't be any worse. How could they be any worse? How could any Division I team look much worse than what Florida State's defense has looked? Let's see it. They're getting punched in the mouth. I don't want to hear about recruiting rankings. I don't want to hear about what Thamel said about Florida State's D-line from scouts. They stink. Let's see here. I hate saying this because I thought he was going to have a great year, and I missed on this a mile. I'll openly raise my hand on it. Kyle Morlock did not play well tonight. He missed a couple of balls, one on the back end of the end zone. He wanted a flag or whatever. He did not look very athletic on that play. He didn't get up off the ground. He had a 2-inch vertical on that play. I don't know if he slipped, if he got held, but it looked awkward at best. It's a pretty good ball by DJ. Good coverage, but Kyle should have made that catch. And again, when you don't capitalize in the red zone, you're not going to win games. So that's just another problem they had. Jake, coaching, developing, recruiting. Jake, let me answer all three of those. They're not good at any of the three right now. None of them. FSU is still the first 17th ranked team in the ACC. Oh, that's from Harold Hall. Oh, man. Oh, Diddy Traders. This is an interesting post. All that Moneyball Norvell doing needs to stop immediately. Pay the studs. Okay, now, Diddy, I don't know if you mean some other guys they missed or what, but it's not Norvell that makes those decisions. That's athletic stuff. That's the booster club. And I'm here to say, before anybody else asks, I know this straight up from directly A to B conversations with recruits to face. What Florida State is offering some of the recruits, not all, but a lot of the recruits compared to a few of the other programs, is not in the stratosphere of these other schools. Florida State's NIL is not on the same par with programs like Auburn, Miami, and some other schools around the country. It's not. Not for the elite. Right? There was a kid they really wanted. The offer from Miami was literally over double what it. Guess where he went? He went to Miami. So NIL is going to have to change, or Florida State might fall into some mediocrity. Let's see. Garrett, DJU is completely emotionless. No fire. Kind of hard to argue. He looked stunned. Like towards the end, like the middle of fourth quarter, he looked like he'd seen a ghost. Let's see. Julia Melendez, yeah, outcoached. No argument. That's 100%. It's officially over. Forget playoffs. Forget ACC conference championship. This is embarrassing for us. No doubt about that. This one's funny. Coach Prime to Florida State at season's end. I don't know if that'll happen, but that's interesting. This one's kind of interesting from Garland. We talked about this a little bit earlier. They will lose recruits from the first two showings. Kind of hard to argue with that. Norvell coaching like he's throwing games away. Oh, man, this is brutal. Let's see. Cosmo, I still think the linebackers are too slow and somehow too weak. I don't really understand what's going on with the linebackers, but they're getting defensive linemen pushed into them far too often as well. I know that. Sam Gibson, straight to the point here. Major changes need to come. Sam, you are 100% on the money. Blake Nagy, this team won't beat Memphis. No, they won't. I'm telling you right now, Memphis is going to win. Straight up, I will pick Memphis right now, barring some kind of injury to Seth, hitting against the quarterback. I am flat out, no ifs, no ands, no buts, picking the Memphis Tigers to go into Doak and win by double digits. Not win by a field goal, double digits. Not a gambler, but if I did, I'd weigh some cash down. Here's an interesting post from Flip Season. His post says, deer in headlights. That's kind of what DJ looked like there towards the end, didn't it? Flip, you are correct. Let's see. Christopher Shannon also agrees they're going to lose. Let's see. Justin Farmer. That's why you can't just rely on transfers. You have to be able to recruit at a high level because they won't hit all the time. I talked about this since I came on Locked On Seminoles last August. Eventually, you're going to have something that goes wrong. No question. Right now, no doubt about it, Florida State is in a scenario where the transfers aren't hitting. 2D linemen, obviously, Darryl. I don't know. I thought he was going to be – I missed on him at bad. Whole bunch of guys, but this is ridiculous. This is funny. Blasting the fight song over and over to the end. I don't know what they're going to do. Oh, man. This is rough. This is rough. El Rico 88. DJ U needs to return his NIL and get his forklift license. Wow. UAB, Boise, Wyoming, San Diego State, and Memphis and Tulane would put in work on this team. That's from Harold Hall. Right now, I don't name somebody in the Power Four that you would pick Florida State to be. Name one. This is an interesting post from Jamie. Norvell has had many losing seasons as winning. People have recency bias. They judged off of one season and not the tenure. It's at least an interesting proposition. This is a colossal failure by Norvell. That's from Randall. Oh, wow, this is bad. Andres Lopez, Florida State versus FAMU would be a good game. Oh, boy, that's brutal, bro. That is brutal. This is terrible. Someone wake up Jimbo Fisher and get him on the phone. I don't know if I'd go that far. Jimbo is terrible. He just fell off a cliff about a year or so after they won the title. I don't know what happened with that, but he sucks. William Melendez, DJ has to be benched. No argument, bro. Oh, man. Oh. Yeah. Yo, let Norvell fake. He was getting offered Bama job to get paid more. Have fun with that buyout. Should have saved those years for this year. Well, it's hard to say. Norvell is the quarterback whisperer. How's that possible? That is from Jimmy Jam. Needless to say, that's ridiculous. Sam Gibson. This is totally on Mike. No argument. This is a hilarious post. We punt incredibly well. Dude, I'm telling you, Master Mono's going to get paid in the NFL. Like, legitimately. He's really good, but I know he's poking fun, and it's sad. Oh, man. Okay, this is ridiculous. Yabu says FSU to the Sun Belt 2036. Oh. This is a good question. Who is the true back for Florida State? I don't know. In my prediction article for stats earlier today, I picked Tofili to go for 95 yards. He didn't even get a carry in the first half. What is that? What is that? That's wild to me. Ethan Williams, 25 yards rushing is the most embarrassing stat out there. Actually, it's not, because they only had 21. It's even worse. They stink up front. They didn't try. Here's something else, too. Florida State didn't try to run. They didn't try. Tells me at least two things, maybe a third. Number one, they don't trust in their O-line in general. Number two, they probably did what I thought they should do last week in practice, and that's hit, kind of go at it a little bit and try to figure it out. And when that didn't go well, they're like, what do we do? What are we doing? And then third, I just think they don't really know what to do now because their offense is predicated off a lot of play action, a lot of looks, a lot of motions, things they did last year. Again, the quarterback not being able to run is a part of this, but They don't know how to run the offense that they have set up. But they brought in DJ. They kept a lot of the same O-linemen. They have tons of experience. Yeah, going into the first game, 210 starts. So I don't want to hear it. Let's see. From Jamie Baby. This is an interesting comment. Norvell is a Sun Belt coach, just like Napier. What were Florida and Florida State smoking? Well, Florida State did get a 13-0 start to last year. Napier, not so much. Here's an interesting thing, and probably the only positive from tonight. Kentron had a good night. He was the best on the field for Florida State. Let's give him a little props here. What were his stats? Kentron had 3 catches for 79 yards and a score. Nothing wrong with that. Florida State could certainly use more of it. The other receivers, just for the sake of it, Ja'Kai had 4 for 66. He had a good game. Benson had 3 for 33. Tofili 3 for 13. Jalen Lucas had that 30-yarder or whatever, 25-yard, 2 for 34. Rodell 2 for 15. Jalen Brown 1 for 15. 1 for 7 for Cam. Deucepan 1 for 5. Darion Williamson 1 for 5. Let's see. There's no leadership from Blake. There's no leadership from a player on either side of the ball. Right now, I don't see how you could argue with that. Let's see. Isaac, we're going to lose all our recruits, question mark. Why would anybody want to stick around for this? If you think Florida State's not going to have kids taking visits next 2 weeks, I got another thing coming for you. I don't think this is true, but Traveling Fool says, is Florida A&M better than Florida State? Right now, it's not out of the question, but I'd still take the Noles. Casey Greer. That game was embarrassing. That's the understatement of the evening. Thank you, Casey. And I think we all agree with that. They have no answers at receivers. That's why 9 was, oh boy. Yeah. That receiving game, like Florida State on even second, like manageable, they just played run. Florida State threw against that front, which I kind of get, but they didn't have any answers for the running game. They didn't even try a first down run in the first half. Like I've never heard of that stat. It's buck wild. Most positive person in the chat is this young man, Kenneth Clark. We can turn the season around. It's 2 games in the season and go Noles. Love the optimism, but that's not going to happen. Kenneth, I hope I'm wrong, but I think they stink, and I just don't think it's going to matter. I'm picking 4 wins for the season. Deep South Fishing says, first Florida State game I have ever had to turn off. Totally embarrassing of a product on the field. No doubt. Bisu190 says, does Norvell have a job tomorrow? Yes, he will. Let's see. DJ has to be, oh, wow. Julio, DJ has to be benched, and I've been a fan since 89. Like, they can go to another guy, but he's not ready either. But it would at least give you, like, the other 2 quarterbacks, the younger guys, sophomore and the freshman, can move. They're not pure option guys. They're not Thomas Castellanos, but they can move. They would fit the offense better. I'm going to leave it at that, but I know they got a long way to go. Like, neither one of them is ready to be quarterback. They're not. But it is going to be a devastating season anyway. So there's a lot of ways to look at it. This is hilarious. Wes Monex, Wisconsin fan here. We are the same team. Welcome. That's hilarious. Let's see. Will this affect recruiting this year? That's from Jimmy Jam. Yes, they're in trouble. They're going to lose some kids. No doubt in my mind. Well, this is a good question. Andres Lopez. Does any record get Norvell on the hot seat? That's a fair question. My answer to that is yes, because I don't think they're going to go 500. When you're preseason top 10 and you don't go 500, you are on the hot seat. If they even went 6-6, he's still going to be on the hot seat. That can't happen at Florida State, especially when, like, if you saw the game tonight, you notice how the stands weren't full? They're doing all these renovations. That's called money. You don't pay to lose. You pay to win. He'll be on the hot seat. Percy Johnson. Memphis may be the nail in the coffin. Sam Gibson can't miss open receivers. Let's see. Flip Season says, undisciplined, not unconquered. Unfortunately, that's a really well said statement. Let's see. Jamie Baby, Florida State doesn't develop quarterbacks. Quit thinking he does. It already cost Florida State $5 million. If you think that DJ got $5 million, there's some swampland in the panhandle we got for y'all. There's zero chance that happened. Bartlett says, Brock, will coach play him next week? I have no idea. After this week, I would have anything on the table, but here's the other side of it. Brock Glenn's a sophomore and he's not ready. That's what I've been told. Flat out. They're in no man's land at quarterback. So if you play the young guy and you run his confidence because he's not ready and he gets his head beat in the ground, does he transfer? Is he ready? Do you stun his development? This is really no man's ground. It's not a good situation. I don't know what they do. Let's see. Irv Wallace. This job is too big for Norvell. I've always thought that. Well, let's see. Jahari Garrett, the transfer portal is dangerous. No argument there. Senior Comrade 123, we freaking suck. No doubt about that. Garrett Walker, is Florida State leaving to the Sun Belt? Bro, that is harsh. That is really harsh. Tony Montana, I love Mike Norvell, but something has to change. I'm a Louisville fan, so keep your heads up, Florida State fans. Thank you for that. Here's a statement that I don't think Jimmy's figured out yet. Jimmy Jam says, if Florida State loses a third game before National Signing Day, by the way, that's December 4th, what is going to happen to the class? Let me be honest. Florida State's going to lose a lot more than a third game. They're going to lose about 5 more, if I was to guess. Minimum. Now, I'm being very positive there. They suck. So let's be real here. This is a program in decline at the moment until otherwise proven. They're in decline. That's just the way I see it. Garrett. Does anyone get fired after this? Not in the middle of the season. Not likely. Who would replace him? How would you do your staff meetings? Football is very congruent. Change in the middle of a season is really, really awkward. Deshaun 11. I'm curious what other people think about this. This was my last game to have faith in this team. Wow. Robert Arena states, I have no idea what we saw, but the lack of effort is unforgettable. I will say it again, NIL has ruined the game I love. NIL is a problem in its own way, no question. This is kind of random. Notre Dame coming for a 5-star OT and wide receivers in the 25 class. FSU losing all their recruits. That's from Commander Luke. I don't know why you would say Notre Dame. They're not. Yeah, I doubt Notre Dame is going to be the one that does that. It'll be a Southern team. Clemens, first time a preseason top team went 0-2 in over a decade. That's really sad. Trey Nelson, skip talking about the running game because it's not there. We threw the ball 40 times with DJ U. Actually, DJ, let's see, what were his final stats? How many tosses did he get? 21 of 42, 272 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 50%. It's pretty bad. Josh Strickland, y'all spent months talking about how dominant the lines of scrimmage would be. Not a good look for FSU creators. Everybody in the country thought they would be. This isn't like this site or any other. There wasn't anybody that was realistic and objective who did not. Like NFL scouts love the talent that Florida State has in the trenches. This is absolutely one of the bizarrest, most off the record, wild kind of deals I've ever seen. I don't know what to tell you. It's not even that DJ sucks, says Harold Hall. The wide receivers straight up refuse to catch for him. They don't even want to give him stats. Well, they played a little better is what's sad. Let's see. DJ U is making our team look like that guy sucked. He missed most of his passes. That's from Smokezilla. Well, I don't know if he missed most of them, but there were so many miscommunications. It's just insane. Jamie, baby, you can be 0-2 at Florida State. It hasn't been a good program ever. No, that's false. Didn't have a great season for 10 years. Jamie, baby, you are incorrect there. It's got a lot of tradition. Here's something interesting. I want to bring this up. A buddy of mine asked me about this earlier today with Florida. Now, keep in mind, this Florida State game. I know Kiffin wants to get out of the Ole Miss job and be in the state of Florida again. UF is open to Kiffin. Would Florida State fans be open to Kiffin? I don't know. But it's pretty obvious Napier's done. I mean, they suck. They might beat Florida State. I don't know, but they suck. So it would be interesting if Florida State would be interesting. I think Kiffin would take the job, personally. I could be wrong, but I do think he would. This is a garbage team, writes Edwin Roll. We have no chance of making the playoff unless we win out. Zero chance of winning the playoff. Hold the presses. Let's try to get a first down running the football before we talk about winning out. They are terrible. Not bad, terrible. And this team is just garbage. Garrett, would JP take over as DC? I have no idea. No idea. Oh, wow, this is a good point. This is something else I got to think about right here. This is a good point. Really important point. Clem MC says, portal is heating up in Florida, LOL. There'll be kids leave if this could get toxic in the locker room. This is not a coaching thing, but like kids that are backups on a bad team will bail. I don't care what program it is. You're going to have some of that. There could be guys looking around. It's one thing to be playing when you're losing. It's another to be sitting the pine or being on the scout team. This is something that Norvell and his staff are going to have to monitor. I don't know how you do. I mean, I don't have any experience with this because this is like colossal. This is beyond pathetic. So I really don't know what to say about it, but they could lose some kids. Let's see. Lane Kiffin ain't going to this school, says Toast. You're an Alabama fan. You're the SEC guy that thinks the SEC never loses, and you hate everybody else and you troll everybody else. Get lost. James Hembre. FSU might go sub 500. I think they will. I think Florida State will win 4 games. That's my new prediction. This is hilarious. Blake Nagy. Saban coming out of retirement and going to Tallahassee. No. He's comfortable with that ESPN seat. He ain't doing that. I don't know what Norvell said at his press conference because I'm here doing this, but I do know the following. No matter what he says, it's not going to be enough. Oh, it's my fault. I take responsibility. No, bro. Right now, straight up, and I was a guy that was a big Mike Norvell supporter. You stink. You missed on quarterback. You missed on the scheme that quarterback could run. You thought you could coach the scheme that he could run. You thought the guys you brought back at O-line, well, I thought a few should go, and I was right. That's about the only thing I got right. Come back 210 starts, they're not getting it done. Even Mo had 2 false starts there. Like the center? What? I mean, anything they could do to cause a failure for themselves. The fellas in Tallahassee have figured out how to screw themselves over. Missed tackles, missed run gap fits, not understanding the route concepts because you can tell everybody looking at DJ and back and forth. Somebody's off. I don't know if it's quarterback or receivers or a little both. Like anything they can do to screw up, dropping passes, they've done it. Jay Felix says FSU is over, done, stick a fork in it. Let's see. Harold Hall, this is a great funny statement. Florida fans thought they were down and bad. Not tonight. Which one's worse? Is Florida worse than Florida State or Florida State worse than Florida? I don't know. I would say Florida played less terrible than Florida State did because Miami is a gazillion times better than Boston College. And Florida State at least had a 71-yard running play. That's 50 more yards than Florida State had all night. Literally. Y'all suck. Julio can't win the ACC, make the playoffs, and might not even make a bowl game. Let me help you on that might. They ain't making a bowl game. Let's see. By the way, I'm just going to go ahead and go out on this, get this out of the way since somebody brought this up in a joking manner. Commander says, don't worry, it can get worse. Florida State could hire Coach Prime next season. Straight up. Not a good decision. He is not a good head coach. He is terrible with time management. He doesn't understand how recruiting works in the modern era. He doesn't do in-home visits and recruiting. Literally, he would be a disaster at a real Division I program. Disaster. No, no, and no. Hell no. No way. If he comes, it'll be a dumpster fire. He is not able to do the things he needs to. He's got medical issues. That's why he doesn't do the visits. That's not how recruiting and college football work today. No, no, and no. From Garland, revamp the entire defensive coordinators. I think it means defensive staff. Fuller, Shanahan, DB coach. Jones is a bust. That left Georgia. Yeah, there ain't much. DB coach is good. They don't even have to throw against it. They had 104 yards. They ain't got no DB coach. That's everything else you said is true. Let's see. Josh Strickland. Josh is out of his mind. This is what he thinks. Lane Kiffin won't leave the SEC for Florida State. Okay, it's Ole Miss. This is not Bama. This is not Georgia. It's Ole Miss. They don't have the same rep as Florida State. They don't consistently recruit the way Florida State does. If you don't think that's not a possibility, you are on crack. Get out of here with that. Let's see. I'm about 200 posts away from the beginning. Like, this chat is unbelievable. Oh, this is hilarious. From Buccaneer Breed. I mean, this is hilarious. Is Willie Taggart calling in plays? Oh my God. Wow. That is a gut shot right there, bro. Willie Taggart. That guy's he's one of the worst coaches in all time in Division I. Like, he sucks. I'll take Norvell over Taggart. I ain't saying much right now, but that guy, he had no idea. I remember they were in a 2-minute drill against Notre Dame and walking to the line of scrimmage. Okay, Norvell's not that bad. What is this? JP says, hire Jimbo to coach DJ. What? I don't want Jimbo anywhere near Tallahassee. There's a reason he got fired at A&M. You don't need to add more problems to the people in Florida State. Let's see. Oh, God. Oh, this is great. All right. Jim says, I got 2 questions. Where is the talent and how much NIL money was spent to assemble this team? What a waste. I don't know what the numbers are with NIL. Nobody does. But the talent's not working out. That I know. I think everybody knows that, actually. Great question, though. I mean, we're not going to get those totals. It is what it is. This is funny. We've been talking about this a lot. Jemanuel says, so the internet lies. Florida State does not have the best D-line in the country. That's from Pete Thamel, one of the most reputable guys in the business. It just goes to show when you pass on info, you get hammered. That's what Pete passed on, talking about people he heard. Florida State had the most draftable guys up front. He was wrong. But the only thing he was really wrong about was just passing on the info. He's just going by what scouts told him. It is what it is, bro. This right here is true. 3 kids and dad. UCF is clearly the second best team in the state of Florida. It's true. Florida State and Florida battling for third. Also true. Brian Thomas. The offensive line looked lazy at times. No doubt about it. Lazy, inept, not disciplined, definitely not congruent with one each other. 5 people has to play together on the O-line. Congruent. Florida State might have a player here really good. Then they'd have a botch 2 plays later, and you're like, these guys don't look like they've ever played together. It's bizarre. Scott says, stop the portal stuff, start recruiting and developing, although I'm not sure Norvell is capable of doing so. That's questionable. Recruiting's different now. You got to want to grind it a little bit. I don't know. It's a really interesting question. Let's see. Oh, wow. I don't have a score yet, but if you want an early insight on the line for the Memphis game, Buccaneer Bree goes Florida State 6, Memphis 38. If it's 38-6, he'll immediately be on the hot seat. You can't lose by more than 4 touchdowns at home to Memphis, the school you left to come to Florida State, by the way. Let's see. Oh, this is hilarious. Blake Nagy. Sun Belt Conference already rescinded its offer to Florida State, said we wasn't worth the money, even if it were a pay cut. Bro, that is harsh. Oh, this is true. Florida State has to play Bama in the season opener next year. Good luck. That probably won't go well. JP says linebacker sucks 100%. ET says Florida State is just a bunch of transfers that could care less about teammates and culture. JP says Norvell abandoned the running game 100%. We own Gators and we will own FSU too. Go Canes. Well, Jay, that might be the way Florida State's playing. They may not own anything besides what's in their bedroom right now because they're getting taken to the cleaners by everybody. Kane for Life says FSU fans had more rushing yards from the stands to their car than the team had on the field. That's pretty fun. Herb Wallace, everything we do on offense looks slow. The offensive line looks like they are in mud, and DJ looks like he has bricks on his feet. Couldn't agree more. I'm about 500 posts away from the top of the board. I'm going to read a couple more, then cut it off, and then download this and put it on the main part of the Locked On Seminoles page. All of this will be downloaded and made available on audio. So if you missed anything or want to go back, you're more than welcome to, and I appreciate it. And thanks again for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day. There will definitely be an interesting podcast tomorrow on Tuesday to talk about the debacle. Probably going to do a segment with the Locked On College Football guy, Mr. Seth McLaughlin's going to pick on it, I'm sure. He's an Oregon guy by trade, but he knows I run Florida State, so that's going to be interesting. He wants me on the show. He was actually trying to get me to come on tonight, and I said I was doing this. But my God, there's no show I can go on without getting picked on now. It is what it is. Let's see. This is an interesting. Philip Huddy. Kiffin would go to Florida before he came to Florida State. That's possible. Let's see. Well, this is an interesting take. Wow. Death Grinder B says DJ at quarterback is what happened. Well, I was willing to give him another chance, but he didn't look any better. I mean, he really looked kind of worse. Florida State just was awful. There's no doubt about it. And he's at the front of the board because he's missing passes. Receivers looking back at him like, why'd you throw it there over and over? Like, there's a lot of communication issues. It's hard to imagine. It really is. One more here, then I'm going to wrap up the show. Oh, let's see. Norvell is talking, but he actually has to own his lack of leadership. Excuse me. Yeah, there's something going on with the leadership and the coaching. It's not getting through. I don't know what to tell y'all. It's bad, but that's going to wrap it up for tonight. Thank you once again for stopping in. Wish I had something more positive. Wish I had something that was more understandable, but it's been a rough one. So thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day. Come back and see us tomorrow. I guarantee it's going to be an entertaining show. But that's going to wrap it up. Everybody have a good night.